All right.
Okay, we're calling this meeting to order. The planning commission meeting of Wednesday, October 5th at 3 p.m. Some of our members, myself included, thought it was at 4. So roll call.
Dave Knudsen,
Here.
Lynn House here, Steve Clisette here, Mary Bachman here, Monica Boga.
Okay. So I'd like to ask for approval of the agenda, motion to approve the agenda.
I move we approve the agenda.
Is there a second? Okay. The motion is for the approval of the agenda, which is unfinished business, follow up from the master plan update. And second, follow up on any suggested changes to resolution 2017. And then no new business and adjournment. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, the agenda is approved. So first we'll go into master plan update request for proposals.
Right. Questions, whatever. Have you read this? Oh,
See it.
oh,
I didn't get it. I don't know.
oh dear. Yeah, it probably wasn't on so.
I mentioned to Mary _services.
Yes. Welcome. There's a bunch of pages at the end that are boilerplate, but you can find this is the most important. Yeah. You want to go ahead and say those again?
Under 2 plan development services, 2.1. 2 to 3 draft plans will be reviewed by town officials and the public. Discussions will inform the firm on the preferred final plan. I was thinking maybe it should be, will be revised instead of, because it sounds like they have to come up with 2 or 3 plans.
Yeah.
So just a plan with 2 or 3 revisions or something to change that.
And that can easily be done, and I think that's a good idea. Make it clearer.
Any other comments? I have a few. First of all, this is not even close to what I had in mind. I was really hoping to hire local people who could help us through the planning process that would have facilitation skills and writing skills. And that was it. And that we as a board, planning board, would basically move forward with a plan with a person that would help guide. They would facilitate the meetings. They would write up the results of the public meetings that we had. And that would incorporate the plan. So in other words, this is written for a giant planning firm to come in. This is not what I'm in favor of. I don't want a giant planning firm.
Well, do you want to do a revision on that then?
Yeah,
David?
I'll do a revision before the board meeting
Okay.
and making it more. And this is, of course, you guys have to vote on this. If you don't like this idea, I'm fine. But I'm willing to rewrite this because as Mary texted me and said, "Are you coming to the meeting?" I was looking up RFPs that I could use as to write up what I was trying to say.
Okay.
Because I am so jaundiced by what we got from Paley and
Right.
Wilson and giant planning
Right.
firms coming in and doing all this fancy stuff that we don't own. You know, there were a lot of parts of Paley in motion. It was really more a roaring fork plan or a Telluride plan that was a Bayonne plan. It just felt that way to me. I mean, they were professional and they gave us a lot of good ideas, but it was way over the top, 134-page document. You know, where our recreation plan is. And I was afraid we were going to get into the same thing. So what I was hoping is that this RFP would be more, we were looking for individuals who would have excellent writing skills and facilitation skills that could work with the planning commission to work through a process, much like we did with the community session that you hosted, Mary, where we had all these community members came in and we did dots against the wall and we had small groups and we had discussions.
Kind of like what Evan was doing when Evan was doing.
Yeah, and Evan was doing that too. And really what we needed is someone to facilitate the meetings. And we needed someone who would write it up.
We need someone to compile it. and
Yeah,
write it up, and that's the big part.
Yeah, because you did it on the last one, and that was an
Right.
excellent job, but I don't think that, I think it's too much to task you.
Oh, I'm not gonna do
Yeah,
that.
no, I'm blaming you. I'm blaming you, but you did a fabulous job with that. And that's what I think we need is someone that can compile all those dots and put it into a document for us and then help us as a planning commission go through this, go through the community's plan, not a
Mhm.
group from outside town.
Okay. Well, I'm okay with you rewriting it.
I tend to agree. When we last meeting, we talked about this. I've had experience in the past being in other organizations and the tendency is to boilerplate from other stuff, which makes their job easy, but does not make their job specific to the
Yes.
needs of our community. And so I agree with you in philosophy, I think is the best way to put it. I think also there is something to be said for people who have the experience of writing these kinds of things, assuming that they can somehow fit what they do to us in some way, shape, or form. And I don't know how to necessarily find someone who I'm not sure that necessarily exists. It may somewhere, but it doesn't tend to,
Yeah.
because these people, it's like changing, whatever in small town America. You have, professional or what's the term I'm looking for? They're long-term, change from town to town, doing the same basic stuff they've always done. And there's that tendency for that repetitive kind of stuff to go on,
Yeah.
which is what we're trying to avoid. And how to find that, I don't know.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I agree with you in principle, how to get there and have it still end up being a, greater plan
Yeah,
on the whole is a tough one.
yeah.
Do we have someone in town who does that?
Well, actually, Lady Red started out doing the whole thing and she just got so much kickback from a couple members in the community. She said, I'm not gonna put up with this, but she could do it.
There is something to be said, having some distance, because that there's insulation from the kinds of petty politics that goes on
Yeah.
Oh, city politics here?
anywhere. It's not necessarily here. Or just here.
You obviously haven't been watching that.
I try to steer clear of most of that. I come here to put my 2 cents in as I understand best based on my personal experience.
Yeah.
As a contractor, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And to try and keep away from all of that stuff, so I can give as clear a guidance or suggestions as I can. Now, how we do that for this,
Yeah,
I'm not 100% sure. I'm not really clear about that one in terms of who knows how to write a business, a plan for the community overall. Who knows how to do that in some semblance that makes sense?
yeah.
It's nice to include all the stuff that everybody is interested in. I appreciate that. I'm not sure. I'm just not 100% sure how that works.
We're not starting from scratch. I mean, we have a copy of the thesis that Barb Peterson did several years ago. That was her master's thesis that was supposed to be, that was never adopted by the council. or else you didn't forward it.
No, it was never dealt by the council. It was,
And of course, our old plan, so we have those two documents that can kind of give us the template for it.
Uh-huh.
well, and then we also have all those other planning documents that have been done in the last 10 years that we can draw from.
Yeah.
So that, and then take all that background information and then update it with local meetings. I mean, we have the strategic planning meeting and then we can just, a visioning meeting, and then take each section and just have a meeting on each of the
On each of the
sections.
sections. And that's what I was thinking, because we have the Bayonian motion actually, to its credit, is a good like roadmap for how it's done. You know, the way they went through it and the different sections they have and implementation, that kind of stuff. So we can just follow that template. During the strategic planning session we had with the community members, where we had like almost 35 people in the room.
Mhm.
One of the people that came up and offered her services is a federal planner that lives here in town. I said that she'd be glad to be an advisor for our process as we go forward. So there's also that expertise right in town. So I don't know, I'm really, when we had the Bayonian motion bid out, there were a couple of proposals, and one of the proposals was from a couple of locals that lived here.
Mhm.
And we chose not to go with them because we wanted the high-functioning professionals from Roaring Fork to come in and show us what they can do. And I regret that decision, frankly. I think, first of all, it was delayed, and at one point, they went so dark that people that were on the support committee that were trying to work with them to move it forward were going like, what happened? Where did they go? Because there was a lot of momentum built, and all of a sudden it just fell off a cliff.
Mhm.
So, I think that experience, and maybe I'm being a little too influenced by that recent experience, but I really feel like there's enough expertise in the community to be able to do that. You're raising some really good points, though, about the ability to step back and not be part of and look at and say, as outside eyes, this is what we're seeing. There might be a way to be able to do that even with this person that was the planner, that's a professional planner.
It's also taking it from the standpoint of protecting the individuals who are doing it.
Yeah.
If they're in town, the risk of people who don't like what's going on,
Yeah.
you see each other in front of the post office on a regular basis.
Yeah.
There's craziness that goes on a regular basis, and I think that that's inappropriate.
Yeah.
But currently we have a plan in place, and we're revisiting the plan at this point. We're talking, it's only, which is what it's supposed to do. Every 5-10 years, that's what you want to do, is see who we are. Where do we go? Where have we been? What in the plan have we done? What in the plan seems to have fallen away and needs to go away? And where are we going into the future? So, that information is all definitely important, and how we get there is the challenge that we're working on.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a tough nut.
It is.
Well, and I
Do you
think,
have further comments?
I think if we go ahead, let's do your RFP. We'll take a look at it and then put it out there. And I think your idea of sample writing, that what have you done in the past? Bring us previous plans you've done or whatever.
Yeah.
So that we know they have the capacity to do it, because we don't want somebody who's just a hack writer in the back room saying, I can do this.
Well, I thought of a very unique way to get at this. This is a little out of the box, but basically I was going to say that anyone that wanted to RFP, we'd like to see a one-page executive summary of the motion, so we can get an idea of how you can condense information. And if your proposal is not adopted, we will pay you X amount of dollars for the time you spent writing that summary. But what this will do is everyone who's applying would be looking at the same document and trying to write that executive summary for us. And so they'd be all starting from the same place, and we have an idea of the writing skills. See, it's more of a test.
Yeah, but I think it's not just writing skills and it's not just being able to.
Well,
do
there's
something.
facilitation and stuff, and they can speak
Yeah,
to
there's
that.
that, but I would like to see some plans that they've done. Yeah, because there could be people who are really thinking outside the box and can make us a pamphlet that does everything versus
Yeah,
whatever Pam and Motion did.
yeah,
So, yeah, I would like to see other ideas than just, let's take this and rewrite this.
for the finalists, there's 2 or 3 finalists.
And it makes it really obvious who a good
It may
candidate
be-
is before you even that stuff. Wow.
Lynn, do you have thoughts?
I just was gonna ask Mary, you mentioned that. Jeremiah.
Yeah, Marissa.
Right, she works, she's
With-
affiliated with the company, so that might take away that problem where it's a Paonia person, because if it's kind of through her company, but she's kind of overseer of doing it, that might take away some of the problem with her being targeted by the naysayers.
Yeah, I think one concern about that is if we do similar public input pieces like we did with the strategic planning that Mary put together, you have strength in numbers. In other words, you say back to people, I hear what you're saying, but that's not what the group said. Here's what most of the people that took time on their Saturday morning to come and talk about this, and this is what they said. This is true. And it does provide a degree of protection there. There's gonna be the naysayers.
So they're always on, you can't get around it, you know. We, some of the people, some of the time. All the people, some of the time. Whatever, all the people.
This is like we can fool some of the
Um,
Well, we can do is not this.
I mean, maybe-
My proposal both can go before the council, and the council can decide which one they want.
Oh, that's a good.
Can only be
That's a
done.
good idea, and maybe
Okay.
the council, but also one of the other things we could do is we could just put it out for an RFP. And whoever wants to show up, shows up. I mean, at some point, that's the reality.
Yeah.
You can't force someone who lives here to do it if they don't want to.
I don't know.
Right, so the idea is that, you put it out, the preference, and that would be kind of skewing the decision in favor of someone who is familiar with the community overall, whether they actually live here or not, or maybe they had at some point, or, maybe they have some kind of connection to it, that might skew the decision to go with someone who might have more affinity for the community as a whole, but you can't force it.
Mhm.
And we want to get this to move forward.
Yeah.
So, you putting out an RFPs, you put it out, you see what you get,
Right, just-
and you can't, yes, we'd like it a particular way, but we can also, instill in whoever shows up to do it what we intend, what we would like as a community, as a whole.
So one thing we could do, or I could do, would be add a piece to this that kind of represents what I'm describing to you. That kind of gives an off ramp for someone to apply that isn't part of a big planning.
Ah,
How about if we just-
And then it doesn't make any difference where they're from.
Right,
right.
But if that's something that calls to them,
yeah,
and we also put the people who are the big people on notice of this is what we're looking for.
Right, exactly. If they don't follow what we want, then.
because I went to the American Planning Association to look at the RFPs there, and they're all listed there, and that looks like a great place to advertise if you want to go nationwide, but of course,
Oh,
it's small.
We don't.
We don't know whether we need to do that.
Yeah.
But at least in Colorado, it'd be good.
Mhm.
Okay.
Well, in listening to everyone, it seems like the best would be if I can provide some paragraphs that provide that off ramp to add to the proposal that's already here. And then take that to the council and see if it goes up, it goes up. They're the ones that have to, the council has to approve it, not us.
Right.
Well, the other part of this is in the RFP, if you're asking for examples of what people have done, one of the telltale signs of what people have done would be communities that are of similar nature, similar size, similar community. You can look at all of that information and find out who's there, what they've done, how it kind of fits, dovetails with who we are, who we imagine ourselves to be, because I think that's the best way to put it.
Yeah,
You know, so I think that, you know, one, this reminds me a little bit when we had the people who were for the zoning board that came and they wanted to change the property at the end of third, from commercial to residential R1.
Right.
And everybody was going on, well, I don't know whether it should be R1 or R3, and maybe it should be R3. We really have a problem with. And I just said, you know what, you can't put yourselves in a position of like trying to minimally control what's going on. The issue that you're talking about is a much bigger issue, and you're trying to put it on one piece of property, and it doesn't make any sense. Right? So, and on top of that, it's not what we're asked. What we're asked is, are you going to accept R1 or are you going to leave it as commercial? Those are the two options we have. So again, it's sort of like that in a way that you can't control it that much.
Yeah.
You can try your best and then do your best with who shows up to try and, okay, we're gonna bite the bullet and go with, and then we don't have to make a decision, we make a suggestion. And then the town council has to make a decision.
right, but we can screen everybody and we can say,
Yeah.
okay, here's our top two choices.
Well, yeah, we'll have
To the council.
about three. Hopefully we'll have 4 or 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
In the process to describe our involvement.
No, it does not. There's something about the screening thing in there, but
Yeah, and I think it was by the town council.
Future proposals, bid opening, firm interviews if necessary. Let me see. Well, bid opening is on the 15th. I suppose we could set just a special meeting after the bid opening. Before it goes to the council, we could make a recommendation.
oh, yeah.
We can make a recommendation.
Exactly, that's what we would do is we actually, bid openings and then we would,
Okay, so could I get a motion to the effect of having a planning commission meeting set for the day after bid opening?
What date is that?
That would be on November.
oh, that's right,
16th.
that's right.
The 16th? Yeah, that's okay with me.
Okay,
I'm sorry. All right, I make a motion that we have what's the date? Let's see.
November 16th,
That's a Wednesday.
Wednesday.
And the following week is Thanksgiving week.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So, but there is a board meeting on the 22nd,
Right,
which is
there
the Thanksgiving week, and that's the anticipation of a board decision. So
Yeah, and whether or not we actually need that is.
Yeah, can be, but if something like this is coming down and we're pushing for it. Who knows?
Yeah.
As long as we
Well,
get.
then I would, if it's then, I would do it the Thursday, the day after. I mean, we might need a little more time to view it,
Yeah, so do it the 17th then,
which is Friday,
Thursday.
Thursday.
It's a Thursday now.
Okay, so my motion is that we have a planning commission meeting on Thursday, the 17th at 3:00.
I'll do it
3 o'clock.
correctly this time.
To assess the proposals
Okay,
that have been opened.
is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries.
Good.
All right, so that's the RFP. I'll see if I can add a paragraph to the town report.
Right, and you know what, I may go back through it and I'll take maybe some of that firm stuff out and
Oh,
try and dumb that down too.
okay. So do you want to send it to me?
Yeah.
You want to send it to me after you've done that, or should I send you what modifications?
You send me the modifications and then I'll insert it.
Okay, that sounds good.
All right, so onward.
Yes, so next agenda, I can just talk about here is follow-up regarding suggested changes to resolution 2017-11. And I think our charge here is to look at what parts of this.
Yeah, you just stay in building and go to something.
Yeah, what is it?
Did Corinne? I went through and highlighted all of this, yeah, in green and red as to what I thought should or should not be.
And Corinne has it somewhere.
Yep. I went through this entire end of things and I can probably get close on it.
I did the same.
Yeah, I sent her something too.
Yeah, I remember seeing yours. I didn't see Steve's.
That's because I'm an afterthought. Just like this was an afterthought.
Fences and walls, right? Is one that might be.
I just had my circles ahead of me and now
Okay, so structural requirement, I'm just gonna go through this the
Sure.
way I see it.
okay.
So everything from intent,
Mhm,
right, which was the first one, down to permits required.
mhm,
No, actually, no, I'm sorry, setback requirements.
mhm.
I'm not sure how I did this. No, to prohibited signs, those were all zoning.
Ah, okay, so
Okay, so 18, 7, 10,
10,
all the way through 16, 750. I consider it to be zoning. I'm just gonna give you my
All right.
feedback on it. Then from there down in signs.
Yeah.
Was considered, so that permits, the setback requirements would be part of the permit,
yeah.
all of that kind of stuff. That's part of the building department.
All right, so 60 through 100.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
I'm good with that too.
Okay, and then, general provisions, flood damage, this whole thing struck me as zoning
Okay,
because it's driven by information that comes actually from people
Property.
who oversee and decide where are those, I don't even know who those people are. You know, that actually doesn't even come from the town. It comes from the state in terms of, at least my understanding. Right?
yes, it does.
So I think the general provisions in flood damage prevention, all of that is part of zoning.
Okay,
You can track this, right?
I am.
Okay.
Floodplain administrator, do we have a floodplain administrator?
If it anybody, it's our town administrator.
Duties, responsibilities, permits, procedures, variance and procedures. It feels to me like that isn't even part of it's not really zoning. It's not really anything. That's like a separate managerial responsibility.
Yep.
And what kind of permits? I don't know what kind of permits you need. I have no idea. I've never seen a permit for a floodplain thing.
Yeah, I don't know that we have because our floodplains are so limited. It's, I mean, just right next to the river. It's all our floodplains are.
Flood hazard reduction.
Oh, I found my stuff finally.
Okay.
Again, this. I don't even know if it's zoning necessarily. It makes sense that it is because you're considering subdivisions and stuff like that. Alteration of water course. I mean, that would require, you know, like to evaluate it, there would be some kind of engineering that would go with it, but then to do it, you would need a permit and you're moving dirt basically is what's happening. So that's a thing. Once you start doing something is my general way of looking at this.
That's
So
building.
that's building. You'd have to have, you know, but it might not necessarily be through our building department. It might actually be through some other managerial organization that.
Let me look,
Right.
let me look at the actual, what it actually says in the code.
Yeah, the county has a whole floodplain, a lot of this.
Oh,
is
yeah,
in the-
I'm sure.
County or state.
They've got it all laid out, because
Mm-hmm.
I looked at that. So it's almost like. Is it really slow?
So. Building.
It's in building right now.
What? Administration of the building inspector is the floodplain administrator.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Permit.
Yeah, but I,
So. We're trying to. Subdivisions. Operation of water course.
yeah, this is what we were talking about. That's where I see something. In order to do that, you would have to have a permit to do it. I'm not sure that the building official, well, I mean, in our town, maybe that's it. I don't know.
Yeah, because that, well.
Kind of at a loss for that one because generally he would not. He'd be interpreting stuff that's state mandated or some jurisdiction that oversees. I don't know if it's the Army Corps of Engineers or whoever, manages the overall floodplain from Minnesota Creek through our town.
That's the Army Corps.
Yes. So, I'm, it depends on who's ultimately responsible for making those decisions and approving them. Do we get to approve it? If, I would assume that you'd have to run it by the Corps of Engineers. You'd have to go through the Army Corps of Engineers and all of that kind of stuff. And that's much bigger than just our building department.
Hmm.
So where do you make that determination?
Keep it in zoning then.
Yeah, I would say zoning. My tendency, most of the flood stuff, unless it's something that you're doing, once you get the permit, then I don't even know that our building department would oversee that. It'd probably be some other jurisdiction that would oversee it.
That's what happened to me, because we had a emergency situation on District Drive in the back of our house. And the contractor that came to me said, oh, this is a waterway, you need Corps of Engineers.
Ah,
So it wasn't even the building inspector.
Right.
It was the contractor.
Okay, so my tendency is to think that this
Stays.
move that back to zoning.
okay, so it sounds like at this point, all of the flood.
Unless there's some kind of physical thing that,
Well, a building inspector, when he looks at a site plan, isn't he supposed to consider the floodplain in that?
yeah, he would, if he had questions, he would bring it up.
Okay.
So if you're gonna move it, he'd say, because you need a permit basically for, to move dirt around, basically,
Right.
in essence, it's.
Yeah. Higher mitigating neighbors and stuff like that.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. What about, then, let's move on to.
So
That stays in zone.
So we're gonna,
all of flood is going to stay.
all the flood stay in zone.
Okay, all right.
And then chapter 16 is supplementary regulations, it's building heights, it's structures, uses.
Right.
That's
All
all.
those in building as blue, I'm certain things in blue that I think belong in building codes.
Temporary uses. Exceptions to maximum height requirement. Building on slopes greater than 35%. Utilities, solar access protection. I still think these would be zoning.
Really?
And that's pretty much what I was thinking too, especially on things like solar protection access and that.
How about fences, hedges, walls, swimming pools, hot tubs? I'm going to chapter 16 then.
Which one? 11?
Article 11.
Yeah.
Is it the use? See, because if it's the use rather than the actual.
All right. we'll
Well,
go.
it says structures and
Structures
uses.
and uses.
Right.
So maybe it should just be take out uses.
Well, and the other
Put it
thing
in.
too is that, as Corinne said, these can be in more than one place.
Yeah.
Oh,
So that you could have, keep the,
I just think of as a homeowner, I'm trying to go into the code to figure out what I'm trying to do, and I want to find that information and then go to where I'm building this.
Seems to me like that one should.
I mean, I go to both places, but if I'm trying
Right.
to build something specific.
Right, I agree with you. So, yeah,
Yeah, so it's like, yeah, the height around the swimming pool, that doesn't seem like zoning.
no, that's not zoning. It's whether or not you can have it.
Right, right.
That's the question.
exactly,
It's not how you do it.
Right.
That's the big difference. Can you, right? Are you allowed to?
Pretty
Allowances?
much if it's R1, yeah. and
Are you allowed to, then that would, or not, that would be zoning, but
Oh, I get you.
how you do it.
Right.
The specifics of it and the requirements to create it, that's a different, that would be in building,
Maybe it should be in both.
I would say.
So put Article 11 in both zoning and building. Or
Yeah,
I think it
so
would need to be rewritten, though.
I do too,
Going to
just
zoning.
doing fences, hedges and walls,
And
you
that's.
should be whether or not, whether it's allowable,
Yeah.
right? Is this allowable?
Okay,
Right? Is a swimming pool allowable?
Yeah.
That's a zoning issue.
okay,
Once it's allowable, right? Once the zoning has been determined that you can do it, then the how-to is in building.
okay,
Okay, and the requirements, setbacks, how high a wall, a fence has to be around the pool if there's that kind of, requirements.
okay,
Good.
Yeah, it's good.
all right.
So Article 12 is building permit and site plan review requirement
That's all.
That's all building.
and building regulations in town code chapter 18.
Oops.
Oh, the cursor was up there.
And then we get to signs. Are we ready to go there?
Oh, yeah, sure. Oops. Did I go back up to the top?
No, you're down at the bottom. So
Okay,
what
so-
they did is they took all of this and then they did it again with the new numbers that made it 18 instead of 16. That's the
Okay,
only difference they did.
okay. So it's all the same stuff that we
Right.
just talked about.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And so 1612, that whole thing with the permits and all of that, that's built.
So we're on chapter 18, article 6.
But 18, all of that stuff, Dave, is exactly the same as what was in 16, because this ordinance simply said we're taking all these things out of 16
16
and moving them to 18.
18, gotcha.
So the ones, as we spoke of, they go back to 16, which is zoning,
Yeah.
except for the ones that we decided, at least in our recommendation, would stay in building.
Okay.
Gotcha.
And so what I have is I've got about half of the ones in 16.7 going to zoning, the other half staying in building. All of 16.9 going to zoning, questions about what the admin thing.
Right, that's floodplain, so.
Right, and then, yeah, so all of floodplain is in zoning, 16.10 is in zoning. 16.11, there's a definition between if it's allowable, then that goes in zoning, but the structures themselves stay in building. And then 16.12 is building.
Right.
Does that mean we're done?
I think that means we're done.
Okay.
Yay,
The next item on the agenda is adjournment.
it is.
What?
Adjournment.
Adjournment.
These are the best damn meetings.
Ah, 3 o'clock. Yeah. We can just buzz through.
Okay,
Okay,
Right.
good. Well, thank you.
And this is our recommendation to the town council
Exactly.
Exactly.
for them to approve these changes.
Right, great. And I'll send you stuff I want to include on the RFP and you can see where it fits.
right, and I don't think this is gonna end up in the next, this will be not this meeting, but the meeting after.
I do have one suggestion in that process, Dave, and that perhaps the way to do it is not necessarily add it to the RFP, or not like as part of the RFP, but as an addendum to it.
Oh, an alternative.
Your ideas about how, like, to try and speak to what it is that we're concerned about,
And that may all go right in that first section of the RFP that talks about, basically what we're looking for.
right.
And then the rest of that is just process.
Right. So just so I'm clear, what you're suggesting is that I write a couple paragraphs describing what I described to you.
Yes.
About what we're looking for. We're really looking for someone that can work hand in glove with the planning committee to have a series of public meetings, and this person would be facilitating the public meetings, and they would be writing up the results of in a form that could be adopted in the master plan.
Correct.
Okay?
Yeah.
I should just record it myself because that's exactly. This is the.
That's
Like, send it to Mary, we're done. As soon as she posts.
Right, as soon as she comes.
On YouTube and YouTube.
While you drive home, yeah.
I better not.
Also not a good idea.
And, yeah, that's it. Are we done recording?
I'm waiting for you guys to officially.
Okay. Motion for adjournment?
Motion for adjournment. Aye.
Oh, boy.
So is the next